Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name's Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Captain Lisa Batchelor. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. Australia's Federation Guard is a tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. They provide a ceremonial presence at civil and military events and during visits to Australia by foreign dignitaries. The Guard will now dismount the catafalque party from the tomb of the unknown Australian soldier. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are united.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations over more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private John Marshall Rose. Popularly known as Jack, John Marshall Rose was born on the 11th of August 1894, the second son of William and Annie Rose of Malmesbury, Victoria. After attending the local state school, he went on to become a carpenter. He enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force in July 1915 and underwent a period of training in Australia before leaving for active service overseas on the troop ship Demosthenes in December 1915. Rose was first sent to Egypt to continue training with reinforcements to the 5th Battalion, but broke his thumb in February, which limited his training for about a month. At the end of March 1916, Private Rose embarked for the battlefields of France. In June, he was seconded to an entrenching battalion, labouring with them for about 3 weeks, before joining the 5th Battalion in Belgium, where the men had been gaining valuable frontline experience in a quiet sector. Shortly afterwards, the 5th Battalion moved south to the Somme region of France and was quickly drawn into fierce fighting around the French village of Pozières and nearby Mouquet Farm. Although the battalion suffered heavy casualties, particularly in August 1916, Private Rose came through unharmed. However, the battalion was so depleted that, like others in the 1st Australian Division, it was sent back to Belgium to recover. In September, the 5th Battalion was in support trenches in a quiet sector near the Belgian town of Ypres. This sector was quiet only in the sense that no large-scale operations were being conducted. The men were still subjected to artillery barrages and machine gun fire on a regular basis. On the 22nd of September 1916, Private Rose's position came under fire, and at about tea time, a round from a German mortar known as a Minenwerfer landed nearby, killing and wounding several Australians. One of those killed outright was Private Jack Rose. He was 22 years old. A friend, Private Sharp, wrote to Rose's parents to say, "You will be pleased to know that everything was done to give poor Jack a decent burial, for I happened to be one of those who buried him. We had to carry him 2 miles down to a little Canadian soldiers' cemetery, where we laid him to rest alongside of his former mates who had been killed a day or two previously. A couple of days later, we erected a neat little white painted wooden cross over each of their graves." Today, Jack Rose is buried in Bedford House Cemetery, just south of Ypres. His epitaph reads, "When Empire called, he did his best, and to God we leave the rest." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private John Marshall Rose, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you a very good evening. Thank you.